In part 1, you learned what materials you needed, and how to make a perfect guideline. Now, of course, this guideline may not be perfect, but of course that doesn't matter at the moment. So for this second part of the video, I connected the wrong 2 lines on this one. In this second part of the video, you need a few different materials that I didn't tell you about in the first part of the video. I'm just going to make sure that I don't cut along this line here. You will need double-sided tape, which is very easy to get. You will need scissors, and you will need patience. Oh, and nail trimmers, which I do not have at the moment. You can use scissors. I prefer to use nail trimmers, and I'll show you what they're for later. But I will use scissors for right now. So, what you want to do is, once you've got your guideline, you want to take the color of tile that you want to use. In this case, I'm using textured green. And you want to take your guideline, flip it over so the side that you drew on is on the table. And then you want to take double-sided tape and cover the whole back with double-sided tape. Now, when I said the whole back, I mean you don't leave any gaps. And even if there's a tiny little strip at the end left, you still cover it up, and that just means you used a little more double-sided tape. So, I overshot on every side about, which is just fine. So as you can see, I have my guideline with tape along the whole back. There is no gaps between that tape. And what you want to do is take your scissors and cut off all the excess tape. Make sure not to cut off any of the guideline. You do not want to ruin it now. Make sure to take the double-sided tape out of your scissors before you start another cut, because then it gets messy and annoying. Okay, and then once you've done that, you should have a perfect guideline. Your lines here, don't worry about this one. I'm going to just make sure to cut along the correct one, not the one I've scribbled out. And then your back should be completely covered in double-sided tape. Since this is a square side, it's going to be easier to work with. You just take your guideline and your tile material, and you want to perfectly match up one corner, and then tape it down. The better your lining up is, the better your tiles will turn out, and the less tile material you will waste. And then you want to tape it down completely. And as you can see here, I think it looks pretty good. So what you want to do now is take your scissors and cut along the very outside. So you only have a square of tile material that's the exact size as your guideline. Now I would suggest going slow and making sure you do it perfect, just so you don't waste time and tile material. Which, if you're like me and plan on custom tiling just about every cube you have, well, will get very expensive. So there's my perfect guideline with that on the back. And this is the side I'm going to be tiling here on this cube. And now you want to cut along your inner lines here. So just make sure that you cut perfectly along it. Don't rush. You want these as straight as possible. And cut along every single line here. And there, as you can see here, I have, oh, where'd it go? Right here. I have my 4 corner pieces and my centerpiece, and they will fit along on this cube. So what you want to do now is go to each piece and peel off the double-sided tape and the paper you used which if you were like me was double-sided, was graph paper, and now I have a centerpiece, and I have this. You want to do that with all of your pieces. It's not that hard, assuming you covered the whole back of each piece with double-sided tape. If you didn't cover the whole back with it, then it will come off in pieces and take much longer. And I found that out when tiling a side of a 6x6, which is not fun to have to custom peel this tape off of 36 pieces twice. So then you've got your 4 corners and your centerpiece. And now you'll notice that each of your corner tiles that have a point are quite sharp. Now, not only could that be a possible safety hazard when you're speed solving or whatever, it also doesn't look good, and it makes it easier to peel off the tile on accident. So what you want to do is either take your nail trimmers or your scissors. I would definitely recommend these because you can get a lot more precision with them, but scissors work just fine. And you want to cut off a tiny, tiny little bit. Like you won't even be able to see that it's gone, barely. You'll just know that there is no point on those pieces. Now, hopefully I will be able to show you in detail. Focus, noob. Focus on my hand, good. Now can you see how very little I cut off? Focus. Hocus focus. Let me show you 2 of them. If I can get it to focus. Focus now, you know you want to. Dang it, I hate it when it doesn't focus like this. Oh well. The camera's being stupid, but you cut off a very, very tiny amount, so it still looks like it's pointed, but it's really not. And then you do that on all of the pieces that have a point on them. Now I'll show you what to do about the centerpiece on a cube in situations where you have little short flat sides. So you go through and cut them all off. And it's a good thing I'm showing you on a cube, because if you have a 6x6, you are cutting off 36, you are cutting off 4 corners on 36 different pieces. So once you've done that for all your corners, you then want to go to your centerpiece. Now the centerpiece we were concerned was a little too big. So we set it on there and it looks just fine. Now, as you can see, they're flat on each of the sides here. So, on each of the little, you can easily round it off by just cutting off a tiny amount on each of the sides, on each of the corners, which means 2 on each side. And I explained the reason for cutting them off, basically because it looks nice. And you don't want to have to cut new tiles when these ones peel off and won't stick anymore. And now, with that being done, you can click on the link at the bottom of the screen, or in the link in the description, and you will be taken to the third and final part of cutting custom tiles for a side of a puzzle of your choice.